Welcome back to Musical Connections. This is Next to Connect. I am your host, Zach Snow, and we are going to introduce you to a singer-songwriter who is making waves in the jazz scene in Newfoundland and Labrador. Their first album, Ease Back, was released in 2020, and their second record, which they worked on with prolific singer-songwriter from this province, Amelia Curran, comes out on May 30th. And joining me right now to talk all about Love Songs for Good Machines, her second studio album, is Natasha Blackwood. How are you doing, Natasha?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I am fantastic. Congratulations on this brand new record.
Thank you. It's pretty exciting. It's May 31st, actually.
Oh, sorry about that.
You're close. You're very close.
One day off.
Yeah.
So close, but so far away.
It's okay. It's exciting nonetheless.
Absolutely. It's your second studio album, your first since 2020's Ease Back. So we're going to talk about that later on. So off the hop here, how are things with you, Natasha?
Great. Good. Really busy. It's quite different from my first record. I didn't really know what I was at too much with the industry side of things, so it's been getting some attention, I guess, and people want to talk about it, like in ways like this, and so there's a bit more behind actually like getting the album out there, and singles are getting some radio play and stuff, so that's all really new. So it's busy, but it's good. It's exciting times.
Yeah, and it's great to have played some of your songs on newfound releases, of course, Pleading Guilty and Who Is It For? The first single we're going to play right after this conversation. But I want to go back to your early days of music because you've been well-known in the music community for many, many years now, and in the jazz genre in particular. So what drew you to music in the first place?
Oh, in the first place? My goodness. Well, I come from a really musical family. I grew up in Stephenville, but my family is from St. Albans, Bay d'Espoir, like on the south coast. And my grandmother played accordion, my pop played guitar. Both my parents are musicians. My two older sisters are musicians. It's just like in our blood. It's just what we do. So I think I started playing piano when I was like 4 or something.
Wow.
And even when I was like 7 or 8, me and my friends were like writing songs and recording them on cassette tapes. I still have one of them. It was like writing songs about the library. At the library. I still remember it. So I just don't ever remember not being into music. It's just kind of, even now when I go see my family, I've got one of my sisters is in Halifax and the other is in Deer Lake, so and I'm in St. John's. I guess people probably know this where the studio is.
Oh yeah.
But we'll meet on the West Coast like in the summer and get all the cousins together and everything. And this is what we do: sit around with guitars and play songs. What are you listening to? What are you listening to? Listen to this record. Listen to this record. Here, learn the harmonies on this right quick. We're gonna meet out around the campfire in an hour and we're gonna sing it. And so that's just how we go.
That's awesome. Now, why jazz? Did you decide to, pursue that? Because, of course, your first 2 records are very jazz inspired, and you really took up the saxophone and really taken on as your instrument. So, why jazz?
It was just sort of like a series of events, really. I really do like jazz. Like, growing up, I really liked Ella Fitzgerald and Frank Sinatra, like Count Basie, Duke Ellington. Stuff that you would hear like in Christmas movies, and I'd be like, what's that? And I'd be like, that's Ella Fitzgerald. I'm like, that's cool, I like that. But I've always been really into music theory and like writing and transcribing music and stuff. When I was a kid, I would do like rotary, and they'd always have these like ear training tests. It was the nerdiest thing ever, but I really loved it, where they would like play music and you'd have to try to write it down. And there were so many things that I was really bad at as a kid, like sitting still, following directions, like, but there was like these like sight reading or sight singing or like, I can't remember what they call it, harmonic dictation or whatever, that I would always just like 100%, like I'd always do it. And I knew I wanted to study music more just because I was like, there's got to be something there, that it just made sense to me. And and I played the saxophone in school band. But see, my dad plays the blues. And he plays lots of different music, but he likes playing the few like blues like cover bands out in Stephenville. So when I was picking a band instrument, I was like, oh, maybe I'll pick clarinet. Like, there's already one in the house. Like, my older sister played clarinet, so we had one. He's like, no, like, play the saxophone, because then you can play in, like, real bands when you get older. Like, you can come jam with me. Like, learn the saxophone. I was like, okay, whatever. So I did, basically, just because my dad's really cool, and I wanted to jam with my dad. So I picked up the saxophone, and then even when I wanted to go to music school, you have to, like, pick an instrument. And it was like, okay, well, should I do piano or guitar or saxophone or voice? Like, what should I do? And all my friends were like, do the saxophone. Like, that's the coolest. I was like, all right. But it didn't really matter to me that much what instrument I did, because I just wanted to write. Like, I always wanted to be a writer. And so I just did the saxophone. So I did end up doing performance at St. FX in saxophone.
Wow.
A Barry sax is what I played like the whole time, like the really big one, which is silly because I'm 5'2". It looked I think it was like my first time really seeing one there, and I was like, that's awesome. I want to play that. And then I was the only girl in the saxophone studio. And they're
wow.
like, that's too big for you. Like, you can't play that. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm definitely doing it now.
Oh, yeah.
Because someone told me that I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, I'm only playing this. And then I like only played it for like the full 4 years. So Barry sax was like my thing for a really long time.
Wicked. Like, and that's a good thing to like, tell them too. Like, hey, you don't think I can play Barry sax? Watch me and look where you're to now.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm definitely not the best saxophone player in St. John's, but I think I've always wanted to be a multi-instrumentalist, and I play lots of different things, so I really focused on saxophone for those 4 years, and then when I was done, I was like, no, I'm back to writing all the time, and so I still play piano and sing and play guitar and play saxophone. I think that's one of the reasons why I stuck with Jazz East for so long. I've been in the jazz orchestra for 12 years, and I've sat in every single saxophone chair, like the Barry chair, the tenor, alto, just depending on wherever it's needed. Is like if somebody leaves for whatever reason, goes away to do their master's, and they need someone to fill that chair, and there's someone else, but they're stronger at this one. It's like, okay, well then they can play tenor now, and I'll do that for this year. And so I switch all around, and it helps me keep my chops up to be able to like read hard music and improvise and all those things. But outside of that, it's been a long time since I've thought like, I'm gonna get better at the saxophone now. I practice all the time, but I have 3 kids, and I work, and I have all these different musical projects. So, yeah, I'm definitely not some sort of like ripping world-class saxophone player anymore. There was a time, like, probably 15 years ago when I would say like, yeah, I'm pretty good, like I could hold up. And now it's like, I'll play good enough for whatever gig I got coming up. Like someone's like, you gotta play this tune, or we got this show, or we're like, okay, I'm gonna get really good at that, but like don't ask me to like play it in 12 keys as fast as I can, because I don't have those chops anymore, but I don't really need them anymore, so it's okay.
Well, you're still good at the saxophone, and a lot of the songs the songs that I got from for Newfound releases, you do a great job. The Barry saxophone solo on Pleading Guilty is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's tenor saxophone, actually. So I'm playing the tenor sax on this record, and Nicole Hand is playing Barry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess even though I could have played all the horns, and that's one of the things I did with Ease Back was I had like a bunch of layers of like myself. So the most popular song from that record was called Are You the Light, and in it there's like 5 horns, but they're all me. There's like Barry sax, tenor sax, alto sax, flute, and clarinet, and they're all me. But it took forever. And one of the things that was tricky about Ease Back was that when I wanted to go play it live, I needed so many different people, and then every song had all these different arrangements that it was really hard to translate it to the stage. And so for this record, I really wanted to have, like, here's this core group of people, they're all gonna have like their role. So Nicole Hand plays Barry sax and sings, and Lauren Strong plays trumpet and sings, and it's never at the same time. So that way, when we play it live, I don't need like a separate backup singer.
Yeah.
She plays, and then she sings, and then she plays, and then she sings. So I arranged it intentionally that way so that I didn't need to have what I had planned for my Ease Back concert, which never happened because of COVID.
Yeah,
but
it was in the middle of COVID too, right?
It was like the very first day of COVID. It was like March 14th, 2020.
Wow.
It was like LSPU Hall was like open the night before, and then it was like closed that day.
Oh,
like the
no.
day of the show. But it was, 27 people was the performers that I had in that show.
Jeez.
And now my band is 8 people, which is like much more manageable, much more like cost effective, and not nearly as devastating if you have to cancel something at the last minute. So so trying to be a little bit more practical this time. And also Nicole's amazing, and she plays in Jazz East as well. So.
Yeah, and she plays with Jody Richardson too as well.
Yeah, and she's in Ouroboros, and she does lots of like theater stuff with Perchance Theater and Rotary and stuff. She's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never knew that. That's someone I want to get on the podcast too. Yeah,
she's incredible. And I think one thing I've learned like as I get older is like just because I can do it all doesn't mean I should. So like you don't need to burn out and stay up all night and do everything. It's like if someone else can do it just as good as me and we can do it at the same time, it's like come on in.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm 28 now, and the podcast largely has been a one-man show. But for the large part, when it comes to doing stuff like this, I've had some help along the way. I've had Kaylin and Rebecca help me out with videos for the first batch, and then my brother's been on board for the rest of it. But like especially like where you were recording Ease Back too. You said you had like 27 musicians for that one show that never happened, and now for the upcoming show that you're going to be doing at the Majestic, you're going to have 8.
Yeah.
Like it's good to have in the end though, like less is more, and really you can achieve more with less.
Well,
in a way,
depending on the context. I've always really liked large ensemble writing, and Ease Back was my first solo record, but I had made like 7 albums before that, like with other people, and I've been helping other people make their records for a long time. And I used to I freelance with music, and I did a lot of like arranging for theater companies and choirs and like school bands and large ensembles. And so I would if they were making a record, they'd say like, can you write all my strings for me, or can you write my choir parts? Or I would get things from like Theatre St. John's that would say, we're doing this musical, but this is like it's like a third too high for the lead singer. Can you like transpose it all? So I would like make them all new sheet music. And I think when I got a grant to make my first solo record, I was just like, I'm gonna use all my skills because it's for me, So it's like, It's gonna have a choir, and it's gonna have strings, and it's gonna have horns, and it was really fun and like self-indulgent. There was 27 people for the performance, but there's like 90 people on the record.
Oh my God.
And but it was like we really had like the full like Lady Cove choir and stuff. So
that's insane.
It was so much fun, and it was fun to be self-indulgent in that way and just really like be as grandiose with the songs as I wanted to be. I don't know if I would do it again. It was a lot of work, and it was really expensive. And at the end of the day, I don't know if people can really tell between MIDI horns or like MIDI strings and like real strings.
Yeah.
So we're like, this is the most amazing, perfect thing. Okay, cool. Now we'll compress it.
Yeah.
Put it down in the background.
Yeah. As long as the music is good, people wouldn't really give a damn, would they?
Maybe, like, some people do, I guess. It depends on who you ask. Music is such a subjective thing, but I do think I used to be a little bit of a purist to my own detriment, that it was like, no, I will not edit things. I'm going to sing it over and over and over and over and over until it's perfect, when it's like, does it really matter? Like, if you have to edit something or fix it, so I think some of it is like age and wisdom. So I'm turning 40 this year.
Oh, wow.
I know. I'm really short, so I fool everybody. But I've been around for a couple of minutes. And I think there's something, I think maybe music school does it to people sometimes, that like you're never quite working hard enough, or like the people who are working the hardest are like torturing themselves, or like it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
To like burnout is some sort of strange badge of honor. That
especially come from St. Effects too.
It is really, really labor intensive. And I mean, that's the only music program I've done, so I can't say that others are not, but it was really intense. And there was sort of like an expectation that if you're not burnt out and stressed and exhausted, that you're not working hard enough. And then it takes a little while to get out of that mindset, I think, when you're done.
Yeah.
That working too hard, even to the detriment of like your own health or your relationships, like is not a positive thing, and it doesn't mean that your music is going to be better either. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you got to put yourself first.
Well, I don't know if I would want to put myself first, but I don't know what's first. I would say family first, but then it's like I want to take care of my family, so I need to take care of myself to do that. There's part of like, like when you're on a plane, like the oxygen mask theory, right? Like you can't help anybody if you don't have anything, if you've got nothing left. And even if you make an album and you just absolutely love it and you're really proud of it, if you don't have meaningful relationships or like people to share that joy with, then what's the point? Mm-hmm. There's nothing. So it's like, you need to have food in the fridge, and you need to be well so that you can actually enjoy it. And you need to maintain your friendships, and you need to call your mom. Like you need to spend time with like the young people in your life. So
for sure.
I don't know if I could say you got to put yourself first, but I think that I do my best work when I am community and family minded. That yes, music is really important and I do need it for myself, but I also need the people that I love.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Now, one of the things you've done in the community is the Jazzy's Big Band, and that's one of the minds of Bill Brennan, who is the artistic director for the Jazzy's Big Band. So how did you get that opportunity with the Jazzy's Big Band?
Well, after I graduated from St. FX, I came to MUN to do music education, so I was a music teacher.
Oh, wow.
And so, I left that to work with First Light, but when I was going to MUN, I heard about it, and it was structured quite differently at the time. So this would have been about 15 years ago that I moved here, and it was all volunteer-based, like no one got paid. It was just like a community band, and everyone kind of just got together and like played for the sake of playing, and would play down at the ship or wherever, and just like pack in everybody like sardines and do it. So I really liked playing big band music, and just coming from the jazz program. So just joined as a sub at first. I would just like sub in for other people when they were sick, and then once a full spot opened up, I joined and never left. So I've been in the band for 15 years, but I've been managing it also for 6 years now. I think this is my 6th year.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's great. It's changed a lot. So now it operates as like a not-for-profit organization. So we have a board of directors. All the musicians get paid artist fees as well. So that has caused a bit of a shift where we don't have as much turnover in the band. And then there's a bit of an incentive for professional musicians to stay in the band and to play it all and then stay. So like the caliber of musicianship and the performances just keeps getting like better and better and better and better because people are like staying for long periods of time. So we're able to play more difficult and challenging music. So it was really only 5 years ago we were like playing the ship for like $10, and now we're like playing the Arts and Culture Center and like selling it out. Like
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's been really great. And actually we just got a grant, a Year of the Arts grant to commission Dwayne Andrews to like write some music, some brand new music for the band.
That's awesome.
That's going to be like a world premiere in 2025, so that's pretty exciting.
That's wicked. Now, of course, you're one of the big faces of the jazz scene. Bill Brennan's another one. Florian Hoffner's another one here as well. So, what do you feel? How do you feel about the jazz scene here in Newfoundland and Labrador?
I don't know, really. It's really funny. I really feel like I'm not much of an expert on anything. Just like I don't know if how I feel even really matters, but I think that there's an incredible talent pool here, especially people who are writing new work, such as like Humberto Piccoli and Ana Luisa Ramos and like Ana and Eric, and who are all from Brazil and have moved here like kind of in recent years and are like making new music that's just like they're incredible jazz musicians.
They're great.
And Jim Vivian, who's like from here, had like moved to Toronto. Like I think in some ways COVID brought some talent back to Newfoundland, and then they stayed. It was like people who had like moved away to play, and then COVID they came home and were like working remotely or teaching remotely, and then they realized they could keep working remotely and then stayed in Newfoundland. So there's been a little bit of people coming back. Dwayne Andrews is another amazing person. So there's a incredible music being made and written and recorded and released and performed like all the time. I don't know how much of an audience there is, and I also don't really have very much to compare it to. It's like I'm from Stephenville. I moved to St. FX, which is like another small town. There was like this little jazz program and like a huge football scene, and then to St. John's. So I know that Toronto is like the jazz hub, but now I'm putting out this jazz record, and I have a publicist for the first time ever, which is wild, but it's Orange Grove Publicity, and they're like a dedicated jazz publicity firm out of Toronto. So then they kind of market your music to like UK, Japan, Canada, the States. So I'm learning a lot, which is really cool. It's also very humbling. It makes you realize how small your life is, or how your view of the industry is when people start talking on that kind of scale of things. And so one of the things is like, you have to sign up for like a profile on this like All About Jazz website, which I did. It was just kind of cool, actually, because I used to have to like write papers that were based on like stuff that was on this like jazz news website. It was like, oh, cool, now I'm on this thing that I used to think was like this intimidating thing. So that was kind of like a full circle kind of moment, which was cool. But in this website, it was like you have to pick like what's your hub, like what's your city.
Oh,
like,
wow.
And Newfoundland like wasn't even an option. You know, it's like
No
Toronto,
way.
Montreal, Halifax, and like that was it. So I was like, hey Ernesto, like I can't. He's like, well, you could just pick Halifax. I was like, I've never played a show in Halifax in my life. Not with jazz, like I have with Eastern Owl, but I was like, I guess that's just what I pick because it's the closest thing. And even then, it's like with the video release is coming out on this like magazine like premiere, and they just sent me the proof, and it's like maritime artist Natasha Blackwood. I was like, oh, actually, I'm not in the Maritimes. Newfoundland's not in the Maritimes.
They don't even consider Newfoundland part of the Maritimes, but like
it's not.
It's its
well,
own
you
little
can't
thing.
expect people like it's like a. It's we can't expect everybody to know what was happening, but yeah, it is. We're a little bit removed from like the Canadian jazz scene, let's say, but I think we're also kind of removed from everything in the Canadian scene. You know, we're just kind of isolated out here. So
yeah,
I don't think jazz is special in that way that it's small, but it's like other, you know, music genres. It's like what is actually happening or the amount of people doing it is small, but the caliber of work and then the quantity even like of releases and like new work that's being created is incredible for how few people are actually doing it. You know, it's like a small but mighty. And when you're listening after like Bill and Florian is like, I don't even know if I consider myself to be the same caliber as those guys, but I get to sit next to them and play music next to them, and it still feels like quite an honor. I was really intimidated by Bill when I first had to simply like, oh my God, it's like the Bill Brennan, you know? And he was like, what's up? Like, how's your dog? Like, he's actually the nicest person on the planet. He's the sweetest. He's like, everybody is so kind and so welcoming and so encouraging, especially to like younger and less experienced players. And I'm not intimidated anymore, but I'm still in awe of the people around me all the time.
Yeah, for sure. But initially there was that little, like, a bit of like starstruck of like, oh my God, this is one of the biggest jazz players in the province. I can't believe I'm working with him. And now he's like one of your buddies.
Yeah. Bill is like a national treasure, you know, because he did like the nature of things and like all those things, you know. So Bill is like, he's well known all around, all across the country, probably beyond. And now it's like, hey, Bill, what's up? He's like, I bought you a cookie. You know, so yeah, I'm not intimidated anymore, but I'm still endlessly impressed, you know?
Is there anything that Bill has taught you that you've taken away from to apply to your music and especially your life too?
Well, Bill. I still learn from Bill all the time, and I'm always watching him so that I can learn how to be a better conductor. And one way that Bill is different from other conductors I've had, especially, you know, in school, is that he's really, really kind all the time, and he doesn't single people out. And you see it a lot. I don't know if you ever watched like Buddy Rich Big Band or whatever. So conductors get mad, like throw a chair or something, you know, because someone's out of tune. But Bill is just like, let's try that again. Let's take that away and practice it and try it again. Like, he's always kind, even when things are not going well. And he's also pretty minimalist when he's conducting. You know, if things are going good, then he'll just kind of like snap his fingers and he'll just kind of wait and he'll be like, this is over here. So that he's not a micromanager. You know, he's like, this is the vibe, this is the groove. But if it's just grooving on its own and everybody's locked in, he's like, cool, like I'll just be over here kind of waiting. So I think it made me take some of my negativity away from my leadership style. And instead of pointing out people's mistakes, like giving suggestions on how they could do it better, or if somebody, you can tell someone feels like they're put on the spot, it's like, let's circle that and we'll try it again next week to give people a chance to like, you know, because no one does well when they're shamed about stuff, you know, like sometimes we got our stuff together and sometimes we don't, but encouragement goes a lot farther than criticism.
Yeah.
And I think that I used to take that as like a sign of weakness, I think, with musical leaders, but then watching Bill and watching how people stay with Bill and they want him to think it's awesome. And so even though he's never harsh, I've never seen him be harsh ever, everyone always wants to have their stuff together because they want it to be great for Bill. And I think that a lot of people could take lessons in kindness and empathy and just like the growth mindset in a music setting and how to encourage that with people.
That's wonderful. Now, of course, Bill Brennan is someone that wanted to get on the podcast in the future. We'll talk about that later. But you also played with Eastern Owl and a lot of the members too. I mean, Stacey House, Rebecca Shar, yourself. You've all worked at Eastern Light, Eastern Owl. All you guys worked with First Light. Center for Performance and Creativity, which is the old Cochrane Street United Church. So, how did the whole Eastern Owl thing come together?
Well, working at First Light and Eastern Owl are kind of two different things, although we did meet at the Friendship Center. Eastern Owl met, I wasn't one of like the original members, although it's been together for over 10 years now, and I think it was on the go for like a couple of months before I joined, but I wasn't part of like the OG crew.
Yeah, like the classic lineup.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really it wasn't even called Eastern Owl until like a year in. But basically what it is, there's a program through the Friendship Center called Community Culture Circle, where people can go and like learn like traditional First Nations songs and hand drumming. And so a few of the folks in Eastern Owl were just going to that as individuals. So either working there or just wanting to go attend, and really liked singing together. So they, one of my best friends since childhood, her name is Janelle Duvall, who's a member of Eastern Owl, and she works at CBC now. But she asked me to come because they wanted to have a bit of they wanted to learn how to sing in harmony and like add harmony to the things, and I was really into like writing choral music and conducting choirs and stuff at the time. So I came in, I think I was like super pregnant at the time, so it would have been like 12 years ago. And yeah, I came in with them every week for a month just to like pick a few songs and added harmonies, and then got everyone kind of singing together and like working on vocal techniques and stuff. And then when it was done, they were like, okay, I was done my little contract. They're like, but can you stay? I was like, oh, thank goodness. Like, I really want to stay. But it was like a community program. So like between 10 and 20 people would go. But then there was a core group of 7 of us that like really clicked and really wanted to sing together. So then we kind of took it outside of the Friendship Center to our own thing and like formed our own group. So at first it was just singing in like community things or like ceremony or like special events and stuff. And we were doing that for a few years before we started writing our own songs. So it really kind of happened gradually, organically, but we're still together, and there's 7 of us. And yeah, it's been quite a few years and a few babies born in the past few years. In 2017, there was like 3 of us had kids around the same time.
Wow.
And so we haven't been as active, especially with traveling and making records and stuff, but we still talk all the time and we play shows all the time. And I think it's more than a band, it's like a family, you know, we're all like sisters, and most of us are not from here, so we don't have like family all around, so we help each other all with our kids and stuff, and we spend a lot of time together. And I have really close friendships with all of them individually as well as a group, so it's a really special part of my life. And yeah, we haven't been as busy, but in a couple of years we could be full tilt back at it again. So it's just going through phases, so it's like a bit of a quieter phase right now, but I think it'll pick up again.
For sure. Now, one thing you've been really busy is putting together a brand new album. Love Songs for Good Machines is coming out May 31st, not May 30th. And this album's absolutely beautiful. Shout out to Judd Haynes for the design of this. And we're actually going to play, of course, one of the tracks, Pleading Guilty, was the song that started this whole journey for you. And so what's different from Love Songs for Good Machines compared to the one, and especially what you said earlier about when you recorded Ease Back, you had like parts of like, you had 90 people, I think, on that record. And with this one, it's like you have like a real good set team for Love Songs for Good Machines. But what are the differences for Love Songs for Good Machines is different from Ease Back?
I don't think my writing style is that different, but the content is quite different. So Ease Back was a concept, I shouldn't say was, is, it still is, a concept album that's sort of about like the stages of grief that were all together. So I was grieving and I wrote all these songs, and then I tucked them away, and then it was just sort of like my own sort of like healing process. And then I kind of took them back out a couple of years later and was like, oh, I think these are actually good. Like I didn't write them to be shared initially. But then when I looked back a couple of years later, I was like, I think I could do something with these. And so I did. So that's kind of what that is. And the whole album is kind of dark, but I was okay with that. I was like, I just like wanted to make this thing, and then I wanted to share it with people, and also just kind of normalize talking about grief a little bit, because there's a lot of it that people kind of go through privately or in secret, and so I just kind of wanted to like throw it out there, and so I did. It was a bit, maybe a little bit vulnerable, but I think that's just kind of part of making stuff, is that you kind of got to be vulnerable. So I'm okay with it, and I'm happy with how it turned out for the most part. Like for my first kick at the can of like making my own thing, I produced it myself, which was cool to have creative control, but with Love Songs for Good Machines, it was produced by Amelia Curran, which is awesome, and it was just great to have someone who was not so attached to the composition or the to have a set of ears on it to be like, oh, what it needs is this, or we should just try it this way, or what I really think is this. And Amelia is just so funny. Like, she would just have all these like analogies that seemed like they're totally out to left field, but actually made sense. You know, just like more hurdle, less turtle, and you're like, yeah, right, less turtle, and then you do it, and you're like, yeah, that's exactly it. Which is, it just sounds ridiculous, but I swear that actually happened. So that was really great. And content-wise, it's not as like glued to one thing. So Love Songs for Good Machines. Basically, the whole record is about like labor and exhaustion, and just like the state of the world that we live in, where our value seems to be like equated to our productivity and like working and family, just trying to balance all the different things. And so some of the songs are directly like work songs or like burnout songs, or they're for specific people who are like kind of going through something, but they're all, you know that saying, you ever hear like Good Machines? Where are you from?
Here in St. John's.
Right. Do people say like good machine? Like if you have like an old truck you had for like 40 years and it's like breaks down, but then you fix it with a twist tie and then it goes again. You're like, she's a good machine.
I think that's before my time, because I don't really recall.
It might be a Bay thing, or it might just be a my family thing. I don't know, but that's just something my pop said, my dad said, and like, and I'll say it. It's like if you have this, like I have like my nan's can opener that has been going strong since probably 1970. I'm like, it's a good machine, you know, just something that like it might break down, but like never wear out. And so I guess the record is kind of like comparing people to that, because it's like we value them by what they can do for us, or what they can do for society, or what they can do for a business, and not just like who they are. And then just like a machine, like we only really say it's done a good job once we've totally worn it out.
For sure.
So Love Songs for Good Machines is basically, it's like a collection of love letters to the working class, I guess.
That's awesome. Now, of course, so is that where the so it said when you're talking about, like, you know, like say if you had like an old like appliance, or you had like an old like say can opener that still works to this day, it's a good machine. Is that where the inspiration for the title of the record came from?
Yeah, and there's a song on there called Good Machines as well, and like the whole thing is sort of like a metaphor for like a person as a good machine, just saying like not even being a negative, not even in a negative light. It's that we want to be seen as good machines, you know, that like we know that the system is corrupt, right? We know that the system is broken, and that it just takes and takes and takes and takes and takes from people. Like, you know, we're all taking home like 35% of our paychecks, and we're like we're taxed to death, and people really can't, a lot of times just can't afford to live or eat or find somewhere to live. And a lot of times people are in jobs that like are not even a living wage, but we still, and that a lot of times are even like exploiting people, but we still want to be told we're good at them. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of what that song's about, is like that I want to be a good machine, or that people want to be a good machine. Like, you recognize that you're only being valued for your productivity and it's wrong, but you still want people to tell you you're doing a good job of it. Yeah. Yeah,
that's absolutely wonderful. Now, of course, working with Amelia Curran, I would imagine it's got to be something good on the resume.
I don't even know if I have a musical resume. It was incredible. It was really great to have a set of outside ears. She's really brilliant and very kind. And a lot of times she trusted my gut more than I did. There was this one song that I really loved it, and I loved the demo, and then when we did it, it wasn't sitting right. And I was like, oh, maybe I don't like it, maybe we need to cut it, maybe it's not the right fit. So she's like, I went on this big long spiel about all the reasons why I was stressed about this song. She's like, I think we just need a really aggressive shaker. You're like, oh yeah, you're right. I love this now. So it was nice. She was like the voice of reason through it all. And sometimes as you can probably tell from this podcast, I just talk like a lot.
Oh yes.
Right? I'm a chatty person, but I would go on these big long rants of all the reasons why I would be stressed about something or worried about something, and she'd say like, it's gonna be great. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. It's gonna be great.
On the note of favorite songs, you were talking about like working with Amelia Kern. There's like this one song that you really, really liked. What is your favorite song off this record and why?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. I think, do you mean like the recording or like the composition?
The whole album.
Or like, yeah, but like, favorite in what way? Oh God. There's a song called Like Me Now, which is, it's a ballad, and I actually wasn't going to get the band to play on it. I was just going to do it myself, like sing and play piano. And then we were already like in the studio, so we hadn't rehearsed it, we hadn't done anything. And I said last minute, I was like, I think I regret that, and I should have played it with the band. And then I was like, guys, I'm really sorry, but can we just try this one thing? And I think we rehearsed it twice and then recorded it in like one take. And it turned out great. And it's really funny because I overthought a lot of the other songs. And I did not overthink this one. It just kind of happened. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. So it was just like a little surprise favorite. I wouldn't put it as a single because it's sort of like it's a little sad song. But it's, I think that's my favorite recording.
Wonderful. Now, of course, you're going to be playing at the Majestic Theatre to celebrate the release of this new album, Love Songs for Good Machines. What else is next for you, Natasha, when it comes to what you got going on in the next few months?
Well, Jazz East is doing a big show at the at the Arts and Culture Center on June the 8th. I'm doing an in-store free all-ages release at Fred's Records on June the 1st, and then June the 14th at the Majestic is like the big album release where we're going to do the full thing. And Sound Symposium, we're going to be doing a main stage show for Sound Symposium in July. And we're working on some potential plans for a little tour, but nothing that's I can announce at the moment. And and that's it, taking it a little bit slow.
Yeah, and once you do announce it, for people who want to find out where you can hear more about Natasha Blackwood, Jazzy's Big Band, Eastern Owl, any other projects you may have, Sound Symposium, where can they go?
I have a website that is going to be up very soon. That is not up yet, but natashablackwood.com. But then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram if you want to follow me on socials.
So it's just simply Natasha Blackwood Music or Natasha Blackwood?
Just natashablackwood.com. I couldn't believe it was available, but it is. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know.
Well, this has been a fun conversation, Natasha. I can't wait to play the rest of this album and feature some more of these songs on the podcast and on newfound releases going forward. So congratulations on your first album in 4 years, Love Songs for Good Machines. And thank you so much for joining me on Musical Connections. All the best to you and best of luck in the summer ahead.
Thanks for having me.